put that question into MCC terminology. How much do you have to hate somebody to avoid telling them the gospel? How much do you have to hate somebody to do nothing? This question makes me think of a story about two guys in a coffee shop. See, this coffee shop, it didn't look unusual. If you went in from outside, it really just looked a little bit slow. Walking in, if you look to the left, you would see two college-age guys who were sitting there looking over their laptops and laughing. And if you follow the direction of their laughter, you would see two other college-age guys sitting at a table alone, crying. The baristas, they looked up and they didn't do anything. They just continued on with their jobs. And three girls on the other side of the coffee shop didn't even notice them crying. Leaving these two guys sitting alone in a coffee shop, crying. You see, no one did anything for these two guys. They were just left alone. If any one of you were there, I'd like to say that you would probably go up to those two guys and say something. I'd like to say that you'd probably go up and ask if they were okay and do something. See, in the Bible, there's a story about this people who were in a similar spot. They were in a spot of pain. You see, but somebody did act. Someone did act. There was this city full of sinners who I've read commentaries compare them to ISIS or the Nazis. They were an evil people, okay? They were barbarians. The people outside looked at them as barbarians and treated them as barbarians. It was likely that if you were to try to share the gospel with them, that they would take your life. But this man ended up going to them and sharing the gospel with them, sharing the Bible with them, sharing God with them. See, in their sin, this guy went to them and started shouting in the streets, saying to repent. And they listened. They listened to this guy who did something. And they acted. And they repented. Their king repented with them. And so they continued to change. And this guy that went to them before that had just been traveling with a boat of pagans. And on this, they were scared for their lives. Okay, they were scared for their lives, and they started praying to every god that they could think of. And this man went to them and said that their gods weren't going to do the trick. They needed to pray and repent to his God. And so they listened to him. They prayed and they repented, and his God did act. And once they saw that his God was real, they offered a sacrifice and accepted him as true. You see, before this man entered their lives, you would not have recognized them as the same people as after. You really could not see them as the same. So a few weeks ago, Nathan, the guy that was on the bass, and I, we went to Wichita to visit an old friend of mine. How many of you remember Jacob Cronin? Like, a couple of you. Okay. So he went here about 2 years ago. He graduated. He's now in Wichita. He's an awesome guy. He got me the job I have now, and he was just a guy I could go to for any advice or help with school. A cool guy. So we went to visit him, and it was a good time. He took us to this chicken strip place, and we got chicken strips and just had a day on the town. And then he took us to this candy shop, this specialty candy shop. And he started going down this one aisle that had all the weird stuff. And he started picking up each item and then pointing it to us and just laughing. So the first thing was like a scorpion lollipop. And he showed it to us and was like, this is crazy. And then bacon mints. And then he ended up going to a specific box. And he stopped there, and this terrifying smile crept onto his face. Okay, he picked up the box and just turned it towards us and said, "What are the odds?" That's a scary thing from anyone, right? Like, you don't want to hear that from anyone. But with that look on his face, it was terrifying. The box read, "World's Spiciest Gummy Bear." Yeah. So after a bit of convincing, he talked Nathan and I into getting it. And it was one gummy bear, okay, for $8. One gummy bear. And so we ended up going back to Manhattan, coming back to Manhattan, and we had some homework to do, so we parted ways so we could grab our stuff and then meet up at Blueston. So we parted our ways, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to throw this gummy bear into my backpack, and we're going to have it at Blueston. So I put it into my backpack, and then I got to Blueston before him, and actually John Andersack, I told you that you were being mentioned, and Ethan Brooks were there already drinking coffee. And so I told them what was going on about the gummy bear. And they started laughing and said to tell them when we were getting ready to eat it so that they could bask in our pain. So I said, okay, yeah, we'll tell you. And so when Nathan got there, he got his drink and sat down, and I told him, okay, so they want us to tell them when we have this gummy bear. And so we started preparing the gummy bear, and just want to defend myself. We did not read the box, okay? We've had the spiciest sauce from Buffalo Wild Wings and thought that was like the worst that you can get. Do you guys know what the Scoville scale is? Yeah. Okay, that's how they measure how spicy something is. So to give you an idea, jalapeno is about 1,500 on the Scoville scale, and then ghost pepper jumps all the way to 855,000. It's a big jump. And then it goes to the Buffalo Wild Wings sauce, which is 2 million on the Scoville scale. This gummy bear, simple $8 gummy bear, it was 9 million on the Scoville scale. Read the box. So, if you know Nathan and I at all, you know we're very sarcastic people. So we started eating it, and it didn't taste different than any other gummy bear. And so we started mocking it. And then, within a few seconds, you can ask John, it hit. And it hit strong. And so John and Ethan, they were just losing it at how bad it broke us. And Nathan and I, after like 30 seconds, decided that was too much, and so went for our drinks. Bad idea. If you ever have spicy food, don't go to a drink. That just spreads the oil around your mouth and makes it worse. We should have thought of that. We didn't. Well, the torture just continued. And they were laughing super hard at how bad it broke us. And after a little bit, we broke into tears because of how bad it was. The baristas, they looked up and saw that we were all laughing, so didn't really have too much concern about what was going on. And not to brag or anything, but the 3 girls on the other side of the coffee shop, they didn't even notice us dying. So, but they all did nothing, right? I'm sure you caught on to this, but the story at the beginning, Nathan and I were the 2 guys crying in the middle of the coffee shop. John and Ethan were the 2 college guys being jerks. And Lewiston was the coffee shop. Hearing the full story really just reframes how you look at it, right? Like when you hear the full story, it changes how you view the characters in it. Like in the first story that I told, the other story I told, the guy with this Midas touch of the Bible. The Bible doesn't frame him in a positive light. Okay? It talks very poorly about him. You see, it actually started with God telling him, an Israelite, to go to this people that was famous for being evil. It would be like telling a Jew to go tell Hitler about Jesus. It was not a simple thing. It is not an easy thing for him to accept. And so he ran. This man named Jonah ran. So he ran as far away as he could to escape helping them, which ended up being about 3,000 miles. So to give you an idea, Jamaica is about 3,012 miles from Manhattan. So it was a pretty big distance. So once he got onto this boat, the weather changed. Weather changed, and the pagans on this boat, they got scared for their lives. They got scared for their lives, and then Jonah told them that he was the reason for this weather. And so they took him and they threw him into the sea. And once he did, he was swallowed by a fish. And he was willing to die in that fish so he didn't have to tell those evil people, the Ninevites, about God. You see, while he was in the fish, he started to pray to God. He started to pray, and after 3 days, the fish spat him out, And Jonah knew that he wasn't going to get out of telling these people about God. And so he went to Nineveh to tell these people about God. And he started shouting in the streets to repent or you will die. These people heard him and they repented. They repented, even their king repented. They dressed in sackcloth and they repented and were saved. Immediately after seeing them saved, Jonah walked out of the city and started to pout because he saved this people. It was a hot day out, and God had compassion over Jonah, and so had a plant come up over him. And the next day, Jonah was still pouting, and the plant withered away. You see, Jonah then started yelling at God, saying that it is better for me to die than to live. And God responded, saying, do you do well to be angry for this plant? The man responded by saying that he was angry enough to die. He was angry enough about this people being saved that he was willing to die. He was angry about this death of a plant, and he was upset about the salvation of a city. You see, he accidentally saved a boat of pagans because he was trying to escape saving the city. He genuinely hated this people. And he only told them about God because he genuinely believed it, and he didn't think he could get out of it. God finishes the conversation in Jonah 4:10 and 11, saying, you pity the plant for which you did not labor, nor did you make it grow, which came into being in a night and perished in a night. And should I not pity Nineveh, that great city, in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from their left, and also much cattle? The video I showed at the beginning, that was a guy named Penn Jillette. He's one half of the magic group Penn and Teller. He asked this question: how much do you have to hate somebody to avoid telling them the gospel? I think about this question a lot. It's one of many reasons that I blame that I came to MCC. You see, last semester, I ended up having an opportunity to tell someone about God. I am a senior here at MCC. That was the first semester of preparing to graduate, and I had an opportunity to tell someone about God. I didn't know this guy. Okay? He started the conversation with me, and he saw the tattoo on my arm, but just the top of it. He didn't see the broken part of the noose. And he told me how he really liked it. And then he started showing me his tattoos. Started off with a pentagram, and then started going more and more anti-Christian from there. And then he started to tell me how he thought it was funny, to be working at a gas station across the street from a Christian college. I could blame what I did next on a lot of things. It had been a long day. It was about 3 o'clock and I hadn't eaten yet. I was going to the gas station for a protein bar. I really hadn't sat down except for when I was driving. And it was towards the end of the semester, so I was stressed about school. But no matter what was going on, it had no excuse for what I did next. You see, I did nothing. I did nothing. I think the question that Penn asked was a good question, but I don't think it was one with an answer. Okay, you don't have to hate somebody to avoid sharing your faith with them. You don't. All it takes is apathy. And honestly, I think apathy can be so much more damaging than hate. Apathy is when you just don't care about someone or something. And if you're merely apathetic towards someone, it is easy not to share your faith because they mean nothing to you. I'm grateful for my faith and the journey I've been on to grow it. I'm grateful for the professors here at MCC and the people here that pushed me to become a better person and a better believer. But I'm constantly reminded that I am not there yet. Okay? I'm not there yet. I struggle to see that there is more to the story than what I can understand. You see, Jonah, he genuinely hated these people, and he tried with everything he could to avoid telling them about God. But he still did something. Me. I was merely apathetic towards this guy. This guy who was practically begging to hear the truth. And I was able to avoid telling him about my faith. See, I think it is way easier to unintentionally avoid telling people about our faith than it is to actively try. See, for most of us here at MCC, we're not going to avoid telling people about our faith because we hate them. I think that's a safe thing to say. I think it's more because we don't even think about sharing it with them. It's more because we are so apathetic towards them that it is difficult for us to get past that to tell them. And I think that this apathy is so much worse than hate. You see, I'd be willing to say that most of us in here are in a very similar spot. I'd be willing to say that we're in a similar spot, that we forget that even in sin, God's people are his people. Even in their sin, God's people are his people. We are God's people. They are God's people. Even in their sin. So, how much do you have to love someone to overcome apathy? How much do you have to love Christ to overcome apathy? You see, I don't know what sharing your faith will look like for you. Okay? Honestly, it's probably a lot different than what it looks like for me. But the thing is that we are called to do something. Okay? We are called to act. So let's do something and let's act.